What if I told you that there was an emperor so degenerate that even the Romans thought he was too much? What if I also told you that this emperor wanted to become a woman so badly that he offered a king's ransom to any doctor who could help him with it? Meet the most insane Roman emperor you have never heard about. Elagabalus was born in 183 AD to Julia Misa and Julius Caesar. While his father was a nobody, his mother was related to 5 Roman emperors. His grandmother was Julia Misa. Great-grandmother was Julia Misa. Great-great-grandmother was Julia Misa. Great-great-great-grandmother was Livia Drusilla. And his aunt was Julia Misa. So, you get the idea. It was a family affair. While he had powerful family ties, he wasn't next in line for the throne. In fact, he was pretty far down the list. But when his cousin Antoninus, the heir to the throne, died without producing an heir, Elagabalus' father became the emperor. This meant that young Elagabalus had become the heir to the throne. The kid was destined to be emperor. You would think that Elagabalus would have been happy with this situation, but he wasn't. You see, from a very young age, he was effeminate. We're talking about a time when being gay was punishable by death. The boy was born into a world that offered no acceptance to people like him. This made Elagabalus extremely unhappy. When he turned 18, he began experimenting with female clothing and makeup. At first, he did it in secret, but soon enough he started wearing them around the palace openly. Even though he identified as a woman, he still liked women. In fact, he loved women. While he was fascinated by them, he also hated them because they couldn't love him back. You see, Elagabalus felt that if women knew that he was a man, they wouldn't love him. So he kept his identity a secret from everyone except his grandmother, Julia Misa. In 280 AD, his father died. As the next in line, Elagabalus took over the empire at the ripe age of 18. He inherited an empire that stretched from Britain to Arabia. He controlled the richest land in the world, but none of it made him happy. Deep down, he was a sad teenager who just wanted to be a woman. To cope with his problems, he threw huge feasts, parties, banquets, chariot races, gladiator fights, hunting expeditions, and theatrical performances. You name it, he hosted it. These events were so extravagant that Rome's treasury was drained in no time, but Elagabalus didn't care. Money was no object for him. Soon enough, he began demanding gold from merchants. If they refused to give him gold, he confiscated their businesses. Then he went after the patrons. He extorted them, harassed them, and stole their property. When that didn't bring in enough money, he started selling imperial offices. Soon, the whole empire was run by sycophants and relatives of Elagabalus. Even though he was draining the treasury, the people of Rome weren't outraged. They were used to their emperor's spending like drunken sailors. But they were about to cross a line that even they weren't willing to accept. After becoming emperor, Elagabalus continued his relationship with his grandmother, Julia Misa. He enjoyed her company and she helped him rule the empire, but soon he wanted more. The young emperor fell in love with her brother, Marcus Cocceius Nerva. He showered the man with gifts, gave him influential positions and indulged in his company. But this wasn't enough for Elagabalus. He wanted more. One day, he entered the Senate dressed as a woman. He demanded that the senators call him a queen and bow before him. Of course, the senators refused. They laughed at him and walked away. The enraged emperor retaliated by banning all wine and closing down taverns. He then unleashed his private police force, the Gestapo, onto the senators. Anyone who defied him was beaten up or thrown into prison. But the people of Rome were tired of his antics. A group of influential senators confronted Elagabalus and forced him to reinstate wine and reopen the taverns. You would think that this would have taught him a lesson, but it didn't. Not even close. Instead of learning from his mistake, he decided to double down. As we mentioned earlier, the young emperor was obsessed with becoming a woman. Now, you might be thinking that this was some kind of a mental disorder, but back then, it was considered a curable disease. All you needed was a skilled doctor. So that's exactly what Elagabalus tried to do. He placed an ad in the Imperial Gazette offering a reward of 1,000 golden coins to anyone who could turn him into a woman. Today, such a bounty would be worth over $30 million. But back then, it was a king's ransom. Still, no one came forward. Rome had some talented doctors, but none of them were willing to mess with the emperor's anatomy. But this didn't discourage Elagabalus. He wanted to become a woman so badly that he started frequenting brothels. He disguised himself as a prostitute and prostituted himself in taverns and brothels. He picked up many lovers this way, but none of them were willing to help him achieve his goal. Disappointed and heartbroken, Elagabalus lashed out. He visited the gladiators' barracks and recruited a large number of gladiators as his bodyguards. These men were fierce warriors, but they were slaves. So Elagabalus chained iron collars around their necks and whipped them if they didn't listen to him. With an army of obedient gladiators at his disposal, Elagabalus became even more reckless. He chained chariots to elephants and whipped them as they pulled him around the city. He organized wild hunts where he unleashed poisonous snakes into the audience at the gladiator games. These snakes killed hundreds of spectators, but the emperor was unfazed. Then he set his sights on the temple of Artemis, one of the ancient world's 7 wonders. Elagabalus led a massive raid on the temple and stole its priceless artifacts. He then unleashed poisonous snakes into the crowd. Hundreds of people were killed, but the emperor wasn't satisfied. He returned to Rome and unleashed deadly vipers into the audience of the gladiator games. Thousands of spectators were killed, but the emperor wanted more bloodshed. That's when his own grandmother, Julia Misa, stepped in. She realized that the boy had gone insane and asked her friend Misa to kill him. The assassins infiltrated the emperor's bedroom and strangled him in his sleep. It was a relief for the people of Rome, but the aftermath was catastrophic. Julia Misa took the throne and appointed her son, Quintilianus, as the heir apparent. To make sure that the new emperor was safe, she unleashed her private army across the empire. Anyone who supported Elagabalus or opposed her was killed. Hundreds of senators and thousands of commoners were murdered. But this didn't bring peace to Rome. The spoiled and pampered nobles revolted against the new empress. They proclaimed Septimius Severus as the emperor and marched on Rome. Julia Misa was forced to flee the city, and Severus took over the empire. This marked the end of the Severan dynasty and the beginning of the 3rd century crisis. And it all happened because Elagabalus wanted to become a woman. Talk about an ironic twist of fate. If you enjoyed this video, check out these ones. Why was Cleopatra the last active pharaoh? And how did Rome deal with poverty?